Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to do an update on my Vermibag Max. Now, it has had a rough time these past few months. I think my last update was in October, and since then I did a Bokashi bucket, and I ended up putting some of that Bokashi into my Vermibag Max, and it didn't go great. We had some temperature issues with it rising up to almost or just over, I think, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really hot for a worm bin. So I don't know if the worms really survived or not. And then after that, I had a fruit fly issue because of the Bokashi kind of really is really good food for fruit flies, apparently. So I had some issues with the bag, all self-made. These are not an issue with the Vermibag at all. These are issues that are caused by me by doing an experiment. And I'm hoping that this will remedy those issues as I've let it sat. And I also at one point took off part of the lid and had my my LED bug light right over that corner, so that way all the fruit flies would kind of go and they died in there, and I emptied out like 4 or 5 times, I think, in between. So it's finally ready to get going again. So let's take a look at it and see how it's doing now and make sure there's still worms in it. So right now it's pretty full, but we're going to add some food and hopefully some water and hopefully get this going again as well as it was before I added this Bokashi. Okay, so here's the Vermibag Max. I don't need to do a temperature reading on it. I know that it's probably good. We'll see if there's any fruit flies left in here. There might be a few. I see a couple maybe, but not too bad. So this is what it looks like on top. I'm going to start digging down here. This is really dry material. I added this on top to try to get rid of some of this fruit fly issue that I was having. Just see if we can dig down in here. Oh, this is really dried out. It's been a while since I've gone in here. I have added moisture, but apparently it's with winter upon us, it's not reacting very well in here. It's very, very dry. So let me see if I can find any of the soil down here at the bottom and any worms. Might have to restock this bin after this this Bokashi experiment, which wouldn't surprise me. I was really surprised how much in temperature it went up to 100 degrees and everything. So I was trying to protect them by adding more stuff to the top here. So I see. I don't see any worms in this little section right here. Let's just try digging down a little bit deeper in here. Alright. Oh, I do see worms. As you can see right here, there's a worm in there. So there are worms in here. They're just way down there. So we're going to try to bring those guys back up to the surface. And the first thing we're going to do here is actually, I'm going to add a whole bunch of food. And I'm going to add a lot of food here to this bin. This bin can usually take it. We're going to add a whole thing of food. This is all frozen right now. But there's some carrots in here that went bad, ends of asparagus, an apple that was bad. So full carrot here that was bad. So we're going to add a whole lot of food to this. Now, the other thing you want to add when you're adding food, I have found, let me just grab this here, is in my Maxwell House container here, I have some crushed eggshell. Now remember, you don't want to breathe this stuff, but this is what I'm going to add to the bin. I'm going to add a whole bunch of it in here, and I'm going to wet it down. Alright, now I'm going to wet this down. This will get it moving throughout the rest of the material in the bin. I knew that I dumped a lot in there. This is going to get it moving. And this really needs a lot of moisture, so I'm hoping this will kind of carry this grit, this eggshells, the crushed eggshells are being used as grit as well, and hopefully it'll carry it down to the rest of the material and give the worms some grit to get back in their gizzards, which could be gone by now after they've been down there for so long in this other section with no real movement upward. So we're going to really wet this down well. Now, just so you guys know, I don't recommend doing the Bokashi in here like I did. This was just kind of a test. I wanted to see how it would work. It didn't work great. It had an odor. If you watch my Bokashi videos, I'll link them up in the corner. You'll notice that it didn't go great. There was a smell. There's a massive odor from it. Had I added smaller amounts, maybe it would have been okay, but I still would not do that in something like this again. It was just too much of a risk. Luckily, this has this mesh lid. If this did not have mesh, it would have just killed this entire bin. It would have jumped up to probably 150 degrees or something like that. At one point, I tried to put some plastic over it to also hold in the moisture, because the moisture and the smell were coming out so readily. So, as you can tell, I'm adding a lot of moisture here now, though, because it was pretty dry in there. And worms do need moisture to survive. So we're going to just keep adding moisture here. We do already have a lot of paper on top, so that's not going to be an issue, I think. And hopefully this stuff will now thaw. And in a couple weeks, when I come back here, this will be really broken down a lot more. So I don't want to dig down in here too much, because it's quite deep. But I think we're going to add this bedding right on top here, just like this. As you can tell, this is really, really dry. I think I might have to moisten this down too at some point and just try to get some more moisture in here in general. We're getting towards winter, the winter months here. And what happens is these bins tend to dry out. As you can see, actually, just so you can see here from the Bokashi, here's a bone. This is a chicken bone. It was in the Bokashi. You can't break it in half. Some of them I've been able to break in half when I've found them, but others have not. I'm going to leave that in there. It'll come out through the bottom eventually. But for right now, I just want to try to get this thing working again. So we're going to kind of, seeing some more fruit flies over here that are getting out. But right now, what I'm going to do is I got this a little bit wet. I'm going to put a little bit of moisture on top here, and I think I'm going to add a cardboard box to the top just to try to hold in maybe some of this moisture. So just kind of keep getting this moist. And you might find, especially in the winter months, if it's drier, or for those in the southern hemisphere, well, it'd still be the winter months, but the different time of year. Right now it's January here, but in the southern hemisphere, obviously it would be summer, so you'd want to make sure you're doing this during the winter, maybe adding a little bit more moisture, or just when it's dry outside. You might find that these bins, especially with mesh lids, need more moisture to kind of hold everything in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of my bottom half of the pizza box. I'm going to put that on top, and hopefully that'll kind of hold in some of that moisture. You know, it'll kind of reflect off of it and go back in. I don't typically put plastic on top of my bins, but you can do that as well, although make sure there's some gaps for air to get out if you do that, to keep the moisture in. But overall, hopefully I can get this bin working again. This bag system has worked really well in the past. I sort of messed it up with my experiment that I was doing, and hopefully this will start bringing it back. As you can tell, there are some fruit flies now kind of getting out here, but we'll clean those up too eventually. It's a lot better than it was, and my bug light definitely helped on that. So that's my update for this week. I will try to do another update within a month or so, and we'll see how this is doing, and if this is going to be able to make it back, or if we'll need to add more worms to it. You know, if it just was too much of a die-off in there, or not enough worms to come back and repopulate the bag. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe my videos, and if you have any questions, of course, ask a comment below. Thank you.